Shannon, how much money did Spice World, the Spice Girls movie, make in domestic box office receipts during its theatrical run?
Uh, $10 million.
Oh,
I mean, it's more than that.
Yeah, doing him dirty.
$1 billion.
It's less than that.
That's the only other possible answer.
It is between those two numbers.
$75 million.
That's the closest you've gotten yet.
$82 million.
Nope, you're going the wrong direction.
Fucking $70 million.
I don't actually remember, Gabe. How many dollars was it?
So I think it was like 35 million. But
you
to provide
motherfuckers have me out here hollering out dollar signs, and none of you remember what the fucking answer is.
I was too busy watching the movie 17,000 times.
Yeah, Gabe's responsible for at least 17,000 of those dollars.
God damn.
So we went to trivia last night at Sac City Brews. Great place. Highly recommend, although it is very busy all the time. And we were slaying, obviously, because we're incredibly bright people. So the tiebreaker question was, how much money did the Spice Girls movie make? And one of our teammates, I think, said $40 million. And Skylar had to rebuttal that with like $350 million. And either, to me, I don't get money. It's fake. It doesn't, it either could have made sense. Like if you would have said $1 billion, I would have been like, sure.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of money, but I also know that the Spice Girls were huge, and so then, of course, the answer was 35. So we seriously overshot that estimate.
Mm-hmm. And not that it matters anyway, because it was the tiebreaker, which we would have actually maybe come into play had Gabe not screwed us on the what is it, like Mexican lollipop company made lollipops about this pop star group, and Gabe came in hot with El Mundo.
Right. Chupa Chupa Pops.
Yeah, no, that was wrong.
It was not.
It was also the Spice Girls, but the other Spice Girls question had not been asked yet, so the Spice Girls were not in our brains yet, is the thing.
To be fair, the same teammate who said 40 million also suggested the Spice Girls were the ones on the Chupa Chupa Pop. So we were really just like not listening to them at all.
Who was on the question was what band was on the Chupa Chupa Pops?
Yeah, they like put their faces on the Chupa Chupa Pops.
No, as a Mexican, I am aware. But what is the band? What band was on the fucking Pops?
It was the Spice Girls.
It was the Spice Girls.
What?
Right?
That's what I said.
Okay, I have a question. When you this is a stupid question for both of you. I mean, look at you.
I can't wait to hear what it is.
Well, I was gonna say, like, what's your relationship with the Spice Girls? And then I looked up and saw both of you and was like, I feel like I know what their relationship with the Spice Girls was. But also for me, the Spice Girls were not a big deal. Like, is it a thing? Because like right now, millennials are psyched about the NSYNC reunion shit.
I didn't know that was happening.
Yeah, I didn't. I also
it does not surprise me that neither of you know that. There are some very good social media videos of people our age doing NSYNC dances. Anyway, I guess like for this crowd, we were probably listening to like Alice in Chains and Pearl Jam and Soundgarden and Stone Temple Pilot. Like, we weren't really listening to the Spice Girls.
I mean, I was aware of their existence, obviously, but I remember it's their If You Want to Be My Lover, right?
Yeah.
I think I was If you want to be my lover, you gotta get me now. I think that came out when I was in 8th grade, and we would have like occasionally a little like DJ set, at my junior high.
Mm-hmm.
And they played that song. And I remember one of my friends telling me that song meant that if you wanted to like hook up with one of them, you had to hook up with all of them.
That's what I thought it was about too.
I'm pretty sure
to this
not.
day, you are blowing Skylar's mind right
Wait,
now.
Isn't that what that song is about?
Like, Shannon, is it?
You're only asking me that question because I have tits. I don't know.
The line is, if you want to be my lover, you got to get with my friends. Isn't that saying like, if you want to hook up with me, you got to hook up with everybody?
I think more realistically, it was like, you got to make sure that my friends don't hate you.
Yeah, you got to be cool with.
How else are you gonna do that?
Yeah, I have to tell you, the only way that I ended up with Nate is because there was giant orgies
with the rest of your friends.
Right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
As one does.
Hang on real quick.
You gotta let that cat out of that room.
See you later. Bye.
Bye. Not all cats
on the ranch,
that cat heard this conversation and was like, I'm gonna fucking split. Like, you guys are.
What you need to do is get your kittens one of these here kitten beds.
I will also say that
just relax.
My dogs are not being entertained by another human being right now. So there is a very real possibility you will hear them complaining loudly that I am also not entertaining them. But I did put on music for them, which was
the Spice Girls.
It was not the Spice Girls. It was
Spice Girls song. I went
onto Spotify and found like a dog calm playlist, and it started out with Bad Bunny. So I feel like that needs to be Bad Bunny's new tagline: "Calm your dogs with Bad Bunny."
Mm-hmm.
Well,
yeah.
All right.
I wonder if that works for cats.
Killing it so far.
Yeah, we are good at.
Yeah, this is going great.
Oh shit!
All right, cut to the song.
Voices, the things they said. Voices, some from those dead. All the voices heard. Voices, things we say. Voices, they're in your head. All the voices heard.
Well, hello, everyone. You have Skylar.
Also Shannon.
As well as Gabe.
Hot damn.
That's
actually the best. That's the best you're going to get tonight.
Yeah, that's as organized as it's going to be tonight because we don't. Okay, so I'm going to let y'all in on a little kind of. I'm going to let you peek behind the voices curtain here a little bit.
We are lifting the veil.
Lifting the veil for you. Typically, the member of the show who is not on the show right now is the one who sort of mostly decides the structure of how things are going to go and then kind of plans to MC the discussion. But he's not here, and none of us did any of that work. So this is just, we're chilling. We're free forming it.
This is free balling.
We're free balling. Dave is, I don't know what Dave is doing. Dave could be doing any number of different things right now. But what he's not doing is here keeping us on track. So this is going to go wildly askew. Already sort of has. So anyway.
I don't know. I think it's nice every once in a while to like change it up, and change is hard. And so listening to this episode might be hard.
I feel
we should
like
embrace change.
We should.
Absolutely.
Nothing changes if nothing changes.
This is like when the kids get left home alone for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
Like parents gone.
Oh, yeah.
Mom always said don't play ball in the house.
Kids gone wild.
But we're gonna play with our free balls.
We've definitely.
I can't wait to play with my balls.
Shannon and I have definitely been left alone on this show before, and it has gone predictably off the rails.
Yeah, I do recall that. The thing is that when left to our own devices, we just devolve into middle schoolers making dick jokes.
So we're not going to do that this time. There will be no blue humor. There'll be no jokes about genitalia, bathroom functions of any kind, excrement.
Shit.
Nope. See, you're already that's strike one. That's strike one, mister.
Do we have a jar that we can like put a quarter in?
You have to, the person who breaks the rules the most has to have a drink at the end of the show.
Okay.
All right, those are rough stakes, but I guess I can try and
I just
stick
bought
to it.
this. I know we're not on topic right now, but I what the fuck are the topics? I just bought a bottle of Buffalo Trace from Curtis Park Market, which is the best of the corner stores in Sacramento. And on it, it has the Curtis Park Market logo because they bought a barrel of 9-year aged Buffalo Trace when it's usually aged for 6 years. And maybe just the guy who works behind the counter was just shitting me when he gave me that line. But I bought a $26 bottle of Buffalo Trace, and I'm sharing that with the two of you so that you can go and buy it, but also with the two people who are still listening to this show.
Mm-hmm.
What is Buffalo Trace?
Buffalo Trace is a bourbon.
Bourbon.
Okay.
Sorry,
It's a good bourbon. I actually prefer it, and I buy it from that same store all the time. Or I guess not all the time, whenever, like once a year when I buy a bottle of liquor, I buy it from there. But yeah, no, Buffalo Trace is like one of the last bourbons that's good where they like haven't been canceled, so you can like drink it guilt free.
Yeah,
because it was
like
everybody
Bullet.
was into Bullet, and then that guy turned out to be an asshole. I mean, it will come as no surprise that it's hard to find people who are not cancelable making whiskey across Kentucky.
Weird.
I know. Wouldn't
That's
have
real.
ever
That really
guessed.
surprises me.
But Buffalo Trace is a tasty bourbon, and you can drink it guilt free. Unless you're an alcoholic and it's ruining your family and work life, and then you can't
In
drink
which case,
it
don't
guilt-free.
drink it.
Then feel all the guilt.
Mm-hmm.
Right. We love a little bit of guilt around here. We should say that if you're still listening, this is a show that we love to do. We love to work on it, but it's still work. And we would love for you to support this work by going to patreon.com/voicesrivercity and giving us your money.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't want to give us your money, that's fine. If you don't have money, fuck, capitalism sucks. If you have extra money, though, we'll take some.
If you don't have any money, you can just share our hilarious hijinks on social media and help us expand into the digital universe.
Or you can take our really fucking dope ideas like the human bidet and make some money.
And turn that into a reality. Yeah.
If you're living that 50, 30, 20, fucking.
Right. That budgeting
Yeah, that
situation.
budgeting life.
Speaking of budgets,
nice.
What I heard through the internet is that the California Prison Guards Union, which we talked about this, didn't we?
We did. Yes, we did.
Yeah. So I'm gonna finish my thought, but the cops got all the raises, they got all the money. $1 billion is it in raises, perks, benefits over the next 3 years. So their budgets are fine. Just like unions are dope, but if your union is attached to cops, then your union sucks.
Yeah, not all unions are created.
No.
Wrap it up.
we just ramped it up to just, cut it right off. Yes. Anyway.
Yeah, so I mean, this also comes on the heels of like almost every other, like all the rest of like the state workers and like, the UAW stuff is going on and the Hollywood writers strike and like everything, and every corner, the people who hold the strings on those purses are being as stingy as they can possibly be, to the point where people are striking. But as soon as prison guards say the word, Gavin can't give them $1 billion in raises and stipends and all of that shit fast enough, which, I don't know. We covered this like Shannon said on a previous episode, but why do you think that is? Why is it that everybody else, like almost literally everybody else in like any kind of government work, is made to scrimp and scrounge until they literally have no choice but to vote for a strike, but law enforcement agencies never seem to face that.
There is an interesting like cloak and dagger type situation with this conversation, because like you have on one hand the like the story about Gavin putting Daryl in charge of like humanitarily restructuring our prison system, right? But then at the that's the cloak, the dagger being that the constant capitulation to police and prison guard union members who are able to get massive raises and increase in benefits. Like you said, like he can't do it quick enough. There was something that I thought was really interesting in this article about this. I have not been to either Susanville or Blythe.
I was hoping that someone would bring this up. This is an interesting part of this for sure.
I actually didn't know Blythe was a place. Great name, though. Very similar to Blight, which I thought was funny. But anyways, both towns are scheduled for upcoming prison closures. And the part of this article goes into how both of these cities are monolithic economies that are over-reliant on incarceration. And I thought that was pretty amazing to just kind of come out and flatly say that, like, you'll be hurting the economy if you shut down these prisons.
Right. Well, especially as like we go and they are starting to shut down prisons, which overall is a good thing. I mean, I would have to imagine, unless you've got an economic stake in it, like the people of Susanville or Blythe. But it is like, I don't know, it's this weird intersection of like, it's a weird piece of capitalism, right? Because this isn't the only like part of this where this isn't the only situation in which there are small towns in this country that are propped up by either the manufacture or the upkeep of either goods or systems that are redundant or are not needed. It's a very weird thing, right? I mean, because that is a reality. Like, there's people in Blythe, there's like families in Blythe who are going to have a hard time when these things close down. And if the whole economy revolves around having this prison in town, then that's it. That is a consideration for the people who live there, regardless of where you come down ideologically on prisons closing or not. But it is like, it's this weird, it's like a weird, it's this weird knot that gets tied by capitalism, and the kind of the further in that it goes, the tighter it becomes and the harder to untie. It's like for instance, I'm going to take us a little bit off topic here, but there are small towns across the country where the entire economy just rests on production of of tanks, but we don't. Warfare has progressed to a point where tanks are not as in high of demand as when they built those plants to crank them out, right? And so the tanks don't go anywhere. They still build the tanks, but the tanks just get stacked on top of each other in warehouses in, Podunkville, Kentucky, or what. I'm just going to beat up on Kentucky because I feel like I'll just concentrate it there. but these tanks just sit on top of each other. But they can't stop production, because if they stop production on that, then literally everybody in that town all of a sudden can't feed their kids or pay their mortgages, right? So the answer is not to find another way to make those people whole and to like help those people, like, you know, feed their kids and pay for their houses. The answer that we do is that they just build tanks and they stack them up and they sell them to the military, and the military takes like all of the money that, you know, that we pay them through federal taxes, and they buy tanks that they know they don't need. And that's just like one example of the thing. But I guess at the root of it is just this really kind of stark example of like capitalism just completely failing. And there's no, but because there is so much on the line for people, it's like it's this train that is very, very, very hard to stop in a way that isn't really catastrophic to people who don't deserve economic catastrophe to befall them, you know?
In a very similar way, this was kind of one of the, I think, major criticisms that was levied against Bernie Sanders when he was running from the left, because he had consistently like signed contracts. I can't remember if it was with Raytheon or Lockheed Martin, but it was one of the major military, equipment distributors in Vermont. And his kind of retort to that was that, you know, in order to create jobs and to keep, this was when he was mayor of Burlingame, right? To keep jobs in Burlingame, like he had to make the executive decision to do that, you know? So it was that kind of understanding, in order to make the lives of people who live in the industrial core or the imperial core suitable, like they have to kind of make these kind of, well, you know, it's not great, but like this is what people do for work, you know. And this article brings up that they have initiatives that are like Community Economic Resilience Fund, community organizations that have put together transitions for these towns, right, to get them away from that economic model. And I think that, you know, if Gavin came out tomorrow and was like, hey, you know, actually, I'm going to take a significant portion of this $1 billion that I would give you in raises and actually put it into programs that will help transition these communities away from this model that is reliant on incarceration, and train you and give you new skills so that you can go into a workforce that is more sustainable as well as, you know, less fucking terrible, then like I would support that. You know, but that's not what's happening.
Well, yeah. I'd also like, I don't know, to me, and this is me being this is a pipe dream, and I know that it is, but it's also like, I mean, if you think about this scenario, is there a more kind of ready-made like rollout test trial for like a UBI, like a townwide UBI, right? Like why, like instead of taking, like you said, Gabe, and I think, yeah, obviously I think that also like, you know, teaching people new skills and uplifting sustainable, like sustainable jobs and sustainable communities is a great way to go. And I'm not going to argue against it, but like at a certain point, like in my example of the small town that builds tanks, like why, instead of like giving the military, giving that money to the people who make the tanks, like that to me is a great opportunity to just give that money to the people who live in that town, to be like, hey, congratulations, you won the lottery. The way that you guys make your money is obsolete. So just have this money and like do what you're going to do with it, you know, like, because there are, as we go, and hopefully, I mean, I think this is an optimistic way to view prisons. I mean, it seems to be going some sort of kind of that way here in California a little bit, but like there has to be a conversation around that sort of thing, and whole industries becoming obsolete as automation becomes a more and more of a part of the conversation. And I don't know, these just kind of seem like opportunities to sort of take those off ramps and explore what that looks like, and do some tests and see see how something like a guaranteed income truly works as an economic model in a small town somewhere whose entire economy rests on an industry that is obsolete.
Yeah, I've heard. I mean, this whole this opinion piece agrees, that there needs to be a different model for just how the fuck we do things. Like the last so this is we read this opinion piece from The Bee by Brian Caneda and Woods Irvin. It's called "It's Time to Scale Back the Power of California's Prison Guard Union." And it ends with recognizing that, the resurgence of the labor movement is a wake-up call, and goes on to say that companies seeing record profits and our state's elected officials must prioritize the interests of underpaid workers and invest in equitable economies that will effectively anchor a more prosperous future, which means prioritizing the financial stability of vulnerable Californians and curtailing the power of special interest groups like the CCPOA that continue to raid the state's dwindling coffers. CCPOA being California Department of
Corrections and Rehabilitation, right? No,
you're right. Yeah, you got it.
CCPOA is Correctional Peace Officers
there
Association. Yes. Jesus, we're doing good tonight. Anyway,
Dave would have nailed that. Dave would have had that on hand if he were.
It's true. It would be in his prep notes. Yeah, I think it reminder after reminder that not only is California going off the rails, or not only is the nation going off the rails, but so is California in many ways as we continue to bolster the work of correctional peace officers.
I love that name.
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah, it's extremely descriptive of the work that is actually done by these folks, for sure.
Yeah.
But then we have this shit where the cops are getting all of the extra money that they we can put someplace else, right? So they're taking, and then we have right here in Sacramento County our very own board of supervisors with $25 million that they're just hoarding and not spending the way that they should. So for those who don't recall, Sacramento County, 6 months ago or something like that, Kevin McCarty co-sponsored a bill to get the county this $25 million check to shelter unhoused people who are living on the American River Parkway, because they are ruining the parkway, the gem of
Sacramento
region.
Mm-hmm.
The gem of Sacramento is ruined, and these monies were supposed to be used to raise up shelter beds, housing services, blah blah blah. So it was supposed to cover startup costs for 620 beds or some shit like that. And Kevin McCarty was like, hold on, it's September. Where the fuck are those shelter beds? So he wrote a letter to the supervisors. Kevin McCarty, who is also running for local office, he's running for mayor. So he writes to the board of supervisors and is like, yo, where the fuck is the money? We're supposed to have shelter beds, and I was out there on the trail and I saw a bunch of people still sleeping out there. And Rich Desmond, newly elected supervisor, is like, listen, we, Sacramento County, provide so many fucking services. We are expanding our shelter and affordable housing and residential and outpatient resources for unsheltered folks living with behavioral health needs. And we're just doing that, and we're doing that so well that we have yet to identify a space to spend that $25 million.
Isn't part of it too that they're like looking for a place to put a safe ground, but they can't find a place that
because the whole it's
that
like
isn't literally nowhere, so they won't put it anywhere.
The whole thing is like, we're really hoping that the county can identify a site by the end of the year for safe ground, but we also want to make sure that it's not like we're not just pushing people, in the outskirts of town, or that we're not, concentrating people in one district. So we have to find just that perfect spot. Like this, for a very long time, it made a lot of sense and was accepted for elected officials to say that they were looking for a place to put safe ground or something similar, right? Like, yeah, we're still looking around for what land is available and for, permitting, blah, 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 all that bullshit. But at this point, like, if you say that you are still looking for a spot, you haven't started, or you're unwilling, because these spots have been identified. Like the city, for example, did a siting plan, right? So there are areas that have been identified. I understand that the city is not the county, the city's smaller, whatever, but the work has been done to begin to identify potential locations for shelter, for safe grounds, for tiny homes, what the fuck ever. We also have a giant fucking fairground that is not used for much of the year that we can use for shelter. The fucking county is huge, and there's all kinds of open spaces and shuttered businesses. They just don't want to. That's the thing. They just don't fucking want to provide services, including shelter and housing, for unhoused people, because it's way cooler for them to continue to go back and forth, play the fucking tit for tat shit with the city, and push the blame off on the city for, well, all unhoused folks are mostly in the city, so the city should deal with it. Then the city yells at the county, and then the county yells at the city, and back and forth. And here the fuck we are.
In terms of like shunting responsibility, I thought it was really interesting that in this article, Desmond did not actually blame the city, but he did blame his staff, which I thought was great. Like, it's like,
always super cool when you read in the paper that your boss blames you for the homeless problem in Sacramento.
It's like, I keep pushing my staff to find a spot. Like, I don't know
what to tell you.
Have you talked to the person that gets paid $17 an hour? If they could, I mean, like, I asked them to find it. It's really on them. Like, my hands are tied.
The thing that's tough about the thing that makes it hard for any of these guys to get the safe grounds up and running is that there's like a million, like there's so many hoops you have to jump through. And so it's so easy for people who are worried about taking the political heat or having their constituents yell at them to like intentionally trip on some red tape and just be like, oh, well, sorry, I want to do the thing, but for one of 100 reasons, we know we aren't able to do that here. And we know that it's possible, right? Because we've seen a couple of safe grounds go up in this town that have been super successful and have been really the sole resource of their area for in the best way to connect people to services. Albeit I know I'm going to get yelled at, so I will kind of tag the thing on that they are not perfect. It's not a great situation, but in a lot of cases it is the only thing that there is to offer. But all that to say, we know it's possible. The issue is if you don't really want to do it, it's really easy to like get defeated by the process, right? And be like, oh, well, I wanted to do it, but I can't. because the fact of the matter is, I mean, and it sucks that we're, the conversation that we're at right now is like, where can we put safe grounds? Because that is such a pathetic way to address homelessness in general, right? But I mean, it is what it is. That's where we are. Fuck, I lost my goddamn train of thought. Damn, if Dave were here, this wouldn't have happened.
It wouldn't happen. He'd have his notebook.
It was interesting that they had mentioned that they found a spot and they were working for months trying to like nail this spot down. And then the person who owned the land then all of a sudden went into negotiations selling it to someone else. And they did not disclose the address, which I'm like, I'm sure that this is totally not a made up place. But if it were, it would be a very easy thing for them to just be like, we've been spending all this time. And then this person, like they sold it to someone else. Like, wasn't our fault.
The point, like, kind of, okay, I remembered where I was going. The point of kind of the whole thing is that in order for safe grounds to go in and be able to do the work that they do, they're gonna have to go next to where like somebody lives. They're gonna have to go within walking distance of a school. They are gonna have to go within walking distance to a park. There is nowhere, especially within the city of Sacramento, and like Shannon said, the county kind of opens things up a little bit once you throw in the unincorporated county. But the map that we have drawn of where these things are allowed to be has made it impossible for them to be anywhere. And so that is another issue that we run into, is that with the extremely liberal definition of critical infrastructure that we've used to include, I don't know, like what, schools, parks, ice cream shops,
churches,
corner store,
like basically literally anywhere. There's nowhere for these things to go. And so that's another, so that like if it, and it just kind of it really promotes the point that anybody who's not talking about that, or who's not acknowledging that is part of the issue here, is not serious about moving forward with the program, with any kind of a safe ground program. Because the fact of the matter is those things are gonna have to go in those places. That's it. There's not another alternative.
I mean, there has to be an understanding that unhoused people are also the folks who use schools and bus stops and, all of the things. And I hear that like folks don't want to see tents, propped up around those spaces. Like, do you think unhoused people really want to have to prop up a tent anywhere? Like, they would much rather be inside somewhere.
Well, and let's also not forget that it doesn't make sense from just like a logistical perspective either, right? Like when they did the thing and Ashby and Harris, tag teamed expanding the thing to include schools over that guy who was jerking off outside of that school, right? Which, for the record, sucks. Like, fucking adults should not be like, or nobody. I'll expand that from adults to be literally nobody should be jerking off next to a school, and that is a situation that needs to be dealt with. However, this specific gentleman he wasn't camped within anywhere near that spot. He had walked, I think, at least a mile from where where his encampment was set up. And so that entire thing that further shrunk the map of where people are allowed to exist was based on this completely erroneous assumption that he was camped nearby when he wasn't. So it's like, it's these sorts of instances are used to make the situation harder, and oftentimes are based on facts that are incorrect, or things that are completely made up.
And I have a question that I don't know if either of you will know the answer to, and I'm not asking it rhetorically, but like how much of this $25 million is being used in the process of trying to secure the spot, if any? Like, are they using those funds in order to,
like, for admin fees or whatever?
Right.
I can't I can't answer that question because I don't have the answer to it. But generally speaking, when there, see, yeah, I don't know. I was gonna say generally speaking, there is like a 5% whatever, like administrative fee that is tacked on to grants, but like this isn't a grant, so I don't know the answer. What I do know is that the more time they take not identifying sites for people to be sheltered, the more this community, city and county, are terrorizing unhoused people by sweeping them and causing, further trauma on people just trying to survive, and breaking trust over and over and over again, so that when the time does finally come, if the time does finally come, that these entities are able to offer reasonable, dignified, and hospitable shelter and other services, it's going to be really hard to get people to go in on it because you don't trust. I mean, you don't trust the abuser, and that's what's happening right now. Yeah, I don't know. This again, we like spent last episode talking about homelessness, and it's just like, what the fuck is there left to say? Our local government is fucking it up, and we need to quit telling people where they can't sleep and find the places for them to be able to sleep.
I mean, I do think that
not even just sleep. I mean, one of the things that kills me is you like hear, people all the time. One of the things you always hear assholes talking about when they're like complaining about homelessness is like, oh, there's turds on the sidewalk, and like it seems to me like if you are a government who like oversees the general well-being and public health of a community, making sure that everybody who poops, which is every human being in the area, housed or unhoused, has a place to do it, seems like the kind of the baseline kind of thing, like it doesn't. Listening to government leaders complain that there is human poop in places where it should not be is so frustrating, because it's like, okay, so you need to identify then a place for that to happen. Like, it's on you. It is your failure. It's not like you can't be mad at these folks. Like, everybody's gonna go,
everybody's got a shit, man. The other day somebody slept on the side of our house, and we live in Curtis Park, and somebody slept on the side of the house. They ate a cup of noodles and they left the cup of nudes behind, as well as their blanket. But what they did not forget to leave behind was a massive projectile shit that was taken. I mean, so what I said to Nate was, this is something that I deal with like all of the time. I've spent my entire career in this space, and so I don't really want to clean it up at home. And so he took one for the team. Gonna let that thing rest a little bit and form a bit of a crust before.
What did I say at the beginning? That's one for you. That's one strike for you.
I was waiting for that. I was like, damn, I got it like immediately.
I spaced out for a minute, and that's why I didn't catch it right away.
Skylar heard me start talking about poop and then immediately went into a fugue state. and it was like,
God damn it.
This can only end poorly.
This is an outrage.
But yeah, people should have a place to take a fucking shit or empty out their ostomy bags, or because that's another thing.
Or throw their trash away. Oh, there's fucking trash everywhere. Well, there's no garbage cans.
Right.
So do the fucking math. It's not hard. This isn't like a complex fucking subject. Like, you don't want people to throw trash on the ground and poop everywhere, then let them have bathrooms and somewhere to fucking put their trash.
And I hate how the response to these very like obvious solutions to these problems is always met with the like, if we give them trash cans and bathrooms, it's going to encourage them to keep staying outside. And it's like,
oh man,
where the fuck do you think like that is ridiculous? And if like you have any sense of reality that you live in where you see this happening anyways, it's not going away because the solutions apparently are far too complex. So even like the minimum standard of having toilets and available trash cans, and when I moved to Sacramento, that was something that I like was blown away by, was just like the lack of public garbage receptacles in this city.
I will tell you, as a former city employee who has looked into this a little bit, it blows your mind how expensive adding receptacles is, and like the upkeep and the amount that it costs to service them. It is like because like anybody, I would think that it would be sort of just a matter of like, hey, we'll throw this can in here, and the guy who comes by to get the nearby cans can just make one more stop. This is like the bureaucracy behind this makes it so that it's something like $10,000 per can over the course of like 3 or 4 years or something like that. It's crazy expensive.
I feel like this is something that, and obviously this is not a long-term solution, but like a group of concerned people could start putting up some trash cans in areas, and then like make, you know, we have so many mutual aid networks available for like food and water distribution that like doing some kind of garbage run as well. It's like, it's just like something has, I mean, like, I get it. I get that point that you're making, Skylar, because it doesn't surprise me that is obviously like a part of the problem is the overall cost that it would take to consistently service them. But I also know that as someone who lives in a house who pays for garbage, that I don't pay $10,000 a year to get my fucking cans picked up. So like, where is this additional cost getting rooted in?
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, welcome to the bureaucratic
nightmare.
The bureaucratic
fucking
nightmare.
Living hell.
Yeah.
But you're right. I mean, and you're right. And you are also right that we do have a community, you know, and we do have folks who go above and beyond to make sure that folks who are hungry get fed, and that folks who need water have water, you know, and it is just kind of another one of those things. It's frustrating because the community that's not the community's job, you know?
Right.
Yeah. You know, the city and the county take a long time to identify solutions or anything around unhoused services. But the thing that they do relatively quickly is shut down public comment for
Dude, you're killing it
people.
with these segues.
We meant to talk about this last week, and then we didn't, but some new news is bringing us back around to it. So everybody knows we've talked about this thing. City council and the hate speech, both in person and over the phone. After many weeks of that bullshit, the city council decided no mas with calling in. You can no longer call in to make public comment at city council meetings, which is, you know, it's a whole thing. It does create a barrier for participating in public meetings, but, you know, having Nazis call every week and spew a bunch of fucking bullshit isn't cool either. Similar problem in where
it was El Dorado County, and I will say right off the bat that like Nazis calling in to an El Dorado County Board of Supervisors meeting, I was shocked that this made headlines, because I'm just going to say that I assumed every person who calls in. No, I'm just kidding. I loved that at the front of this article, they made sure to put the picture of Welcome to Placerville, Old Hangtown right underneath it, because it's like, right, like let's remember where we're talking about. And I think it's important to note that this is because the Board of Supervisors rejected declaring, and I don't know which month, July, I'm sorry, to designate an American Christian Heritage Month.
Didn't they vote for that and then they had to walk it back because they got
did,
at?
Right. They had to walk it back because of the obvious violation of the separation between church and state. So then they had a slew of fucking Nazis calling in, spewing like really terrible hate speech and anti-Semitic comments, and essentially they would let like one person go, end the call, and then like the next person would jump on and it was the same thing, and they were just kind of like, well, like, can't really do anything about it. There was a particular comment that I thought was really like I had to read it like 3 or 4 times before I fully not understood, but I just kind of had to like absorb what I was reading. So this was, who said this? Let's see. John Hidall, who is on the board. He said, First Amendment rights are a basic fundamental right of every individual to express themselves. That's what leads to good governance, is hearing the difference of opinion, which right off the bat, I'm already like, okay, like always going to hear the First Amendment argument. But then he continues his comment and says this: I just wish that some of the language was cleaned up. I mean, the message is fine. The message is fine.
Mm-hmm.
But the derogatory language is hard to take.
Right. So you can be like vile and racist and misogynist. You just, like, if you could just do it without the slurs,
right,
that would be the way to go.
What's incredible is that like before this asshat was like, gave that fucking quote in the piece, there are the things that were said, which are, not cool.
Not like a difference of opinion type deal. Like,
right. No, it's like, not like
people like they get all fucking off track on this because a difference of opinion is like, hey, how much we should raise taxes by 3% to like, make sure the roads get paved. And somebody's like, no, that is not enough. We'll never make it in time. We should do it by 6% and we should pull the money from this pot of thing. Like that is a difference of opinion type deal. But like, the Jews run the banks of the world or whatever, like all of that shit is not like an opinion. It's not like a legitimate opinion that anybody has to fucking entertain. It's just a bunch of asshats.
I mean, this like Holocaust denying shit, like that, like how would this John, whatever the fuck his name is, prefer somebody deny like what language should be used when denying the Holocaust?
Make sure that you just like don't drop F-bombs. There are kids in the audience. We want to make sure that they're protected because it's always about the kids. And and I would venture to say on top of Skylar's point about like voicing a difference of opinion, that there could have been people who legitimately wanted to call in and voice some kind of logical argument to support an American Christian Heritage Month. Like, I would have disagreed, but if they had some like valid points to make, then they could have called in and said like, I really believe
narrator
that
voice.
Blah, blah, blah,
they
blah,
didn't.
Blah, blah. But record scratch. It's very, very poignant that the only people who called in were fucking Nazis, right? And like, which shows that the support for this designation, like who is at the core of that. And I think it's also relevant to bring up that this kind of comes, not obviously we've had our share of Nazis calling into Sac City Council, but it also comes after 2 weeks of, I think it's been 15 bomb threats that have been called in to different libraries and schools in Davis, because the Libs of TikTok creator, I won't even dignify to attempt her name. She's a piece of shit. Kept targeting UC Davis school systems for, inclusive, comprehensive sexual education that actually, gives credence to the fact that trans people exist. And Moms for Liberty, that terrible fucking ultra right-wing group masquerading as concerned parents, has, essentially been at the center of this because they held a meeting at a library community room, which are always open to everyone, and it got shut down once they started arguing against like the existence of trans people, right? Like, and since then, all these bomb threats have been called in, and of course, this is always that situation where it's these groups of people who are feigning concern for children, to shield the reality of their bigotry, while then having their supporters literally threaten the existence of these same children, by calling in bomb threats and making it so they can't go to school, and calling in bomb threats to libraries so they don't have access to books. And then you have this situation where you have a bunch of fucking Nazis calling in, spewing, like it wasn't even like an attempt to veil it, right? Like they were literally denying the Holocaust. They were literally saying Heil Hitler, like, and the response for the Board of Supervisors was just like, well, I mean, I guess I don't think we really have any regulations that we can use to like stop them, like better luck next time, I guess. And like, it was pretty telling that a lot of the community members that were there were just like, I feel like I'm going to throw up. Like, this is disgusting that we were all just subjected to this. Like, we need to do better.
No.
So everything is fine in the region.
It's the other thing that's so irritating about this is, it's like the same 8 guys, who do this in like every council meeting that's in like the time zone that they're in, like, yeah, they get shut down here, they move here. It's the same, just like group of fucking 8 bozos. But I mean, it does. There's no way to get around that. It effectively is an effective way for them to just bother everybody. And since that seems to be the objective,
I will say that I sent this to you earlier. Our good, our good friend and resident fucking Nazi who denies being a Nazi, Ryan Massano, posted on his Twitter account that GDL, like the Goya Defense League, was calling into the Modesto, to the Modesto City Council with a voice modifier to pretend to be him. And he's like, it's not me. Like, they were saying, they were using racial slurs.
He's also like, he's trying to ask for help on how to sue him. And it's like, where's Mr. First Amendment? They're just using their speech. Like,
it's just
I'm sorry if you have a difference of opinion, but you can't use the law to shut them down.
Yeah, and he also accused them of being puppets of the banker overlords, and like he's accusing the Nazis of being the puppets of the bankers that he is always accusing of being controlled by the Zionist world government or whatever.
I mean, this just really strikes at the heart of the fact that this is a really coherent politic.
Yeah,
that makes a ton of sense from front to back, and not just like somebody who is mentally ill who found himself with a gigantic platform that he never should have had.
I do think that it gives some kind of like whenever we think that like the left is disjointed and incapable of finding common ground between like political tendencies, I'm always happy to remind myself that the right is far more in chaos a lot of the times.
I know it must be crazy to like be going through, and it must be crazy to like, if your friends are Nazis, to like have the milk turn sour because like you aren't racist enough, or like the way that you are doing racism is not in line with like the way that like the real Nazi guys are doing racism. Like, I don't know, that dynamic is wild. It's extremely wild. And also, like, dude, if you're famous just for being a racist, it probably really sucks to get cast out of the Nazi garden, right? Like,
yeah.
If that's your whole claim to, like,
garden.
if that's your whole personality is just built around being basically like being orbiting Nazism as closely as you can possibly do without actually just like tattooing a swastika on your forehead.
Yeah, Icarus can't get too close to the sun on that one. He's got to make sure that to him, it's just for a lot of them, it gives them the legitimacy that they seek from overall society of just being like, I'm not waving the swastika around. So like, I'm not technically a Nazi, right? I just hold all of the same views and all the same values. So
yeah. Do you guys think anyone is still listening to this podcast?
I think probably there's a couple.
Yeah, do you want me to start calling them out by name? Because I think I know.
Well, I was thinking maybe we could test it by like telling some secrets and then seeing if they pop up on Twitter and who's publishing them,
Oh, telling personal secrets?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. I
was thinking about just kind of coming out, just kind of dropping that thing, Shannon, like your butt thing. I was just going to talk about that.
Oh, okay. I guess if we're going to talk about it, this is as good a place as any. I have hemorrhoids.
No, not that one.
Oh, the other one. Okay. I have hemorrhoids and another thing, and I have talked to Skylar about it.
Is it a fissure?
It's an anal fissure, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I am familiar.
All right. Well, you both get strikes, but I kind of brought that one up, so I'll take a strike myself.
You walked us right into that pin.
Yeah, we don't get all.
You guys, you get strikes. And any rational person would agree with that call. So, well, 2 strikes though, so you're not out. Is that out or is that strike?
That was just 2.
It's just 2. I think we both got 2.
Yeah.
Which is actually really good because we could have gotten a lot more strikes.
Well, I'm throwing the flag on this whole episode. Thank you. If you are one of the people who now knows the secret of Shannon's butt, because you're still listening to this episode, thank you for listening.
My butt is sore.
Thank you, and you're welcome.
Yes.
Yeah, actually, you're fucking welcome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the other way that we feel.
Next week, we talk about Skylar's balls.
Oh,
this show is only an hour long. Well, anyway, thank you for listening. Now you know what it sounds like when it's just the 3 of us without Dave. You're welcome. And yeah, go find us patreon.com/voicesrivercity. You want to pay us to do this, talk about this stuff. Yeah, that's that. Everybody have a wonderful, wonderful